Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/slash Tales from Tech Support. In today's episode, why having the user comply with my instructions can't solve the problem. The unknown server. The noise. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. Why having the user comply with my instructions can't solve the problem. This is another story from years ago when I provided tech support for a company of cheap PC clones that are no longer available in the United States, but which are still sold in other parts of the world. Now, to say that many of the purchasers of these computers were first-time users is a vast understatement of the case. Many of my best stories from this time come from the nexus between bad hardware design, cheap customer service solutions, and insanely novice users. So sit right back and I'll tell you the tale of the mythical creature known as the user, and his capricious and unpredictable ways. First, the usual disclaimers: I am on a computer, so completely responsible for the formatting. English is both my first and third language, and my mother was a school teacher, so I am also completely responsible for my use of grammar and spelling. Although I do not care to hear about it if the spelling tends to vacillate between British and American standards. Or the punctuation for that matter. Now get ready to hear about the facepalm smack here round the call center. Today I have a call from a user experiencing a standard problem with her new computer. This computer had a bad driver at the time of build, and instead of reimaging them with a good build with the correct drivers, the company had simply thrown a patchfix floppy in the box, and we routinely had to walk the user through the process of installing this to get their computers working properly. Just another sure sign that our company well and truly loves its customers. So I help my caller identify the floppy disk with the patchfix on it. I help her identify the floppy drive in her computer. I help her find the icons for her drives in the Start folder. This was Windows 3.3, and we are ready to begin. So, let's put the floppy disk in the disk drive. Caller, it's in. Okay, now find the floppy disk on the screen. Caller, I see it. Now put your mouse over the floppy disk and double-click. Caller, okay. Waiting. So, what happens? Caller, nothing's happening. Okay. Is the mouse over the floppy disk? Caller, yes. And while the mouse is over the floppy disk you double-click? Caller, yes. But it isn't popping up the DOS screen with the update? Caller, nothing's happening. So we start all over again and walk through it again. Caller, nothing's happening. And again. Caller, nothing's happening. I'm running out of ideas. So very slowly, I step through the process again, and it is this time that I determine she is putting the floppy disk back in the drive, but I had never told her to take it out. I ask her why she had taken the floppy disk out of the drive. Caller, so I can double-click on it. Facepalm smack. Well, at least now I know why it isn't working. She had been putting the floppy disk in the disk drive, locating the icon for it on the screen, pulling the floppy disk back out, placing it on the table, placing her mouse over it and double-clicking. And strangely, nothing was happening after. So we tried it again, this time using expressions like place your mouse pointer over the picture of the floppy disk on the screen and double-click, and yeah. The patch worked this time, and she was able to start using her computer properly. Maybe next time we should just start by lighting a black candle or something. The unknown server. Our IT department is fairly new. Our entire team has come on board within the last 2 years. We've been in the process of cleaning up the massive undocumented mess we inherited from those who were previously running things. As part of the cleanup, we are working on a project consolidating servers around the campus into a proper data center. I'm having fun with this project. We have one server left that is not in the temporary MDF, but no one knows what it does or what the IP is. I run a scan of the VLAN hoping to find something, and lo and behold, I found 4 IPs that were not documented. I run an NS lookup to see the names of the devices, and they come back to machines, 3 virtual plus the Hyper-V host. None of the servers are in active use anymore, and in fact, when I go to log in, a guy we fired 4 months ago's deleted admin account was still logged in. I log in, kick the old account off, and find out that nothing has been done to the device in 2 years. Now we know why we knew nothing about it. I set about checking to make sure there are no services or software running on there that is needed and proceed to shut down each VM and finally the host. Everything is good for 3 hours. We get a ticket mid-evening stating that our software that our security guards use to view cameras is reporting licensing issues. I log in and confirm the issues. I call the vendor and he says just bouncing the server should fix it. It's a VM running nothing else but the surveillance software, so no big deal. I bounce the server. Same error. At this point, I'm wondering if something was indeed tied to the old server. Nothing was listed in the programs list. No extra services in the services panel. Nothing. I decide to boot the old host up anyway. Instantly the camera system comes back to life. License problem is fixed. But what gives? Why did the server that's doing nothing being on fix the license issue? I decided to investigate. Our old camera system ran off of an old desktop computer. One of the things the previous IT staff did correctly was to migrate it to a VM for resiliency. When they did this, however, they didn't feel like walking over to the data closet where the server that would be running it was located. They instead decided to install the USB key that provides the license to all network users of the system in this random server that had nothing to do with the actual server running the software. I shut the old server down, removed the key, walked it over to the proper closet, and installed the key properly. Now everything works and the old server is off. The noise. As I pull into the parking lot on this crisp autumn morning, I see a class out on the playground having just the best time ever. I thought it was kind of weird because this isn't anywhere close to any recess times, and they sure haven't earned any extra recesses yet this year. Not that it really matters to me, but I just thought it was a bit weird as I was pulling into my parking spot. I walk in the door and the first thing that greets me is Titanium Trevor. Titanium Trevor is the school resource officer that is literally half titanium alloy or aluminum at this point due to an absurd number of surgeries he's had. A brisk walk would outpace his run. Even more unfortunate is that he is wildly inappropriate and cannot take a hint. I'd honestly rather suckstart a shotgun than listen to another word he says. So of course he's in the lobby to greet me and says, "Man, you're starting off with a good morning, aren't ya?" "Every morning is a good morning, Trevor." I reply as I brush him off to quickly punch in at the time clock. "They say it's one of your wires coming out of that ceiling that's making the noise." "Who is they and what wire and what noise?" "Oh, didn't they call you?" "No." "Well, apparently there's one of your wires in Harris's room that's making some loud noise or something. What wire of mine could possibly be making noise?" "I don't know, man, that's just what they said." "Who is they?" "Harris, I guess." "Brother, I don't know, I'm just telling you what they told me." "Fine. Let me set my stuff down first." We walk down there and sure enough there's a pretty loud noise. It sounds like one of the bells on the intercom system got stuck in the on position. Except it's not coming from the intercom. It's coming from the opposite side of the room. The same side of the room as the wire. My first and really only mistake was listening to them instead of just doing my own investigation. I begin looking where they said it was coming from, the rapid run audio video cable that you use connect a DVD player up to the projector. Yeah, it's a bit louder in that area, but there's no way in hell it's making this loud of a sound. I get my sciatic nerve on fire, half my leg and foot numb self on a table, because Titanium Trevor is just standing there completely uselessly. I begin to pop open a couple ceiling tiles and determine that the noise is for sure not coming from the wire nor the ceiling. I begin to think that it's a bit louder by some wall-powered microscopes. This isn't a science classroom, they have set up on a table, so I start unplugging anything in the area and the noise just isn't going away. I tell Titanium Trevor to just stay here, basically keep doing what he's already doing so expertly, and that I'm going to start flipping breakers to see if we have some insane interference being caused by God knows what. I flip all the breakers for that room and it's still as loud as ever. I limp back down there and begin to just listen. As I'm just using my ears to navigate, much like Bird Box, I'm canceling out the incredible echoes of the noise and Titanium Trevor's incessant rambling. I'm honing in on the target. But as I dial myself and I begin to feel an overwhelming wave of regret. I know what's happening. I did this to myself. I'm becoming self-aware of the fact that I assumed that they knew what they were talking about. I listen. I listen hard. I divert all non-critical sensory input to my ears. Taste? Not important. Smell? Not important. Touch? Maybe. I'll leave a small reserve in that tank. After channeling and redirecting my sensory abilities, I'm being driven toward the ground. It's low. Is it one of those prank noise makers? Did a kid pull a genius stunt to get a free 30-minute recess? I begin to check under tables. The first table isn't right, the noise isn't loud enough. The second table nearby is loud. I mean loud. But it isn't coming from the underside of the table. It's even lower than that. It's coming from the ground where all the backpacks are. The blue backpack on the ground. It's coming from the blue backpack. I pick it up and the noise follows the backpack upward. It's inside. I don't know if I'm allowed to go through a child's belongings, so Titanium Trevor does the only useful thing he's done all morning and opens the backpack up. The noise is infinitely louder. He begins taking things out one by one until finally. The metronome. It's a band kid's metronome. It's a kid's metronome that they evacuated the classroom for. It's a kid's metronome that was the cause of the class being out on the playground as I pulled into the parking lot. It's a metronome that they blamed on my wire. It's a metronome that neither the 30 kids, nor the teacher, nor any other adult at the school bothered to put in any effort to find. They lost an entire class period's worth of learning over a metronome, in a child's backpack, that had nothing to do with the technology department.